Here we are, episode 11. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
I had to double check the count before we started again. But it is 11.
Maybe they don't
I
need
suppose.
to see my toilet the whole time.
Yeah. You can put the toilet away. Yeah, that's cool. But here we are, back at it, tuned up and tuned in with Vin and Phil. And along with us today, we have a very special guest that has actually been mentioned on the show many, many times at this point. And so we decided, rather than him being a phantom person,
You'll feel like you already know him.
there you go. Here he is. So joining us today is Alex Tierney, longtime friend of Vin's, and
That's right. Berkeley buddies from college buddies.
Yeah. First week, I think.
Yeah.
I think we were looking for someone to get us a bottle of whiskey, weren't we?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
What a time.
that does sound about right.
sounds about right for that year.
But
Yep.
that being said, that sounds about right for just about anybody's first week of college, I
Right.
hope.
Yep.
And mine was very, very similar to that.
Yeah.
But thanks for coming on, man, first and foremost. When Vin and I started a couple weeks ago talking about wanting to talk about Bob Dylan and therefore the band and artists around the band and the guys that were in the band and where they all went, and he was like, we can't have this conversation without including Alex Tierney in this conversation. It's just, it wouldn't be right.
That's right.
Well, I mean, yeah, I suppose. They're just the best. The band is just the best band as far as I'm concerned. I don't think anybody did it better or as good since.
I guess there's a reason that they were able to be called the band.
Yeah, there sure is. And I think they've got, for 4 guys from Toronto and 1 guy from the South, they've got the best book of American music, I think. You could argue maybe the Grateful Dead does too, but I think as far as the actual songs go and sort of like what they're about and what they invoke, I don't think anybody did that better than the band.
And let me just say, the reason why whenever this band and Bob Dylan and the Grateful Dead, whenever anything in that era comes up, I always immediately think of Alex Tierney. Because Alex is the one who got me into the band. I knew maybe music from Big Pink, and that was it. I think my buddy Mike Jurowitz from high school had that CD. And that was all I knew of them. And I was like, man, yeah, they're all right. But I at the time, I hated their slow songs, all their ballads.
Yeah.
Remember? And Alex we were like, dude,
You're
those
not.
are the best ones. And fucking,
You're not.
over the course of time, I was like, you know what? He's right. Those are the best fucking ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I became a super huge fan of the band because of Alex Tierney. It was Alex Tierney's favorite band,
Yeah.
And I think a similar thing happened with Bruce Springsteen.
Pretty much.
On the flip side.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking
that
about...
was like our fair trade, was he gave me the band, not gave him the Bruce.
Yeah. You're talking about people that made songs cool, Like, what's cooler than a song? It's not just guitar solos and, the instruments being cool, but, like, you need a good song to go with it. And I think the band really... Springsteen kind of did too, but he's got some cool saxophone in there as well. But I don't know. I think writing a good song is you can't beat it. You need it, and I think the band did that and proved that. I think Bob Dylan kind of started it. Songs are cool and songs are important, and writing songs is a fun thing to do. Even though I don't write songs, but I play songs. But
You've written riffs.
Yeah.
You've written riffs.
I have written riffs, yes.
Some of the best riffs come from this band,
Right.
That's and listen, I definitely come from that same school. I guess I'll give you a little background though, Alex. I'm here to be educated because I'm not. It would definitely not be fair to say that I don't like Bob Dylan. That's not fair at all, and I've been put in that category, but. It's not true. It's like that's a straight up fallacy. Like, I don't. He's not my personal cup of tea. I don't want to I don't personally listen to music that I have to study like an academic. When somebody's like, you have to sit there and really listen to what he's saying, man, I'm like, I don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't necessarily subscribe to that mentality about it either, though. I don't think that's. I'm not really much of a lyric guy. I don't look too deep in, especially with Bob Dylan, when it's really hard to find that deep meaning. And I think, Bob Dylan would get upset at you for placing any meaning on any song that he's written at any point. But I don't think that. I don't listen to Bob Dylan and think that the deeper meaning behind his lyrics is the reason why I'm here listening to him as I drive down the highway. I like the words on face value for sure, but I don't assign a ton of meaning to them. And I think if you can separate the two, which is difficult with someone like Bob Dylan, admittedly, and again, not a very popular Bob Dylan opinion there, but I like the instrumentation. I like the chords. I like the words. I like the choruses when they're there, but I'm not looking at Desolation Road and thinking, man, I love this allegory, or Hard Rain's Night. I love this tale of a nuclear apocalyptic world. I'm just thinking, I like when he talks about the burning hammers and the bleeding ladders. It's just, it gets just two different ways to do it. I've never been, I don't really, like I said earlier, I don't really write songs or lyrics for that matter. So I don't assign a ton of meaning to them. I pick up a phrase here and there that I like from a song. I guess, but once we get into it, the band will be a little different because their songs are much more, Net They Drove Dixie Down or something like that, are much more story based and not so abstract. It's like you remember seeing that Walk Hard movie, and they get to that point where they're kind of making fun of Bob Dylan, and he's singing about the toaster
the
and
spiders.
And the guy from side stage says, what is this? This doesn't make any sense. And the drummer who's been taking all the drugs says, you don't get it. This is really deep. It's
this
like I kind of
really
feel like
deep.
The guy standing next to the drummer sometimes,
No,
you guys are idiots.
You guys are idiots. Yeah, you're an idiot.
No, but I appreciate that view because I feel like, and here's the thing, I there are times where I am glad to do that, and that's the thing is I don't want people to misunderstand. I don't discount Bob Dylan as a songwriter. I think quite the opposite. I think he's one of the greatest of all time. I have no argument against that. I don't. Right. I sincerely don't. I think there's a very legitimate reason for why he's regarded as an American treasure and why his works are in the Library of Congress, as opposed to everybody else who's a songwriter ever. I completely understand that. The big thing for me is really, and this is why it's stupid, because it's really just, I don't like his voice typically. There are definitely some songs that we have already talked about that are, no question, where he's really singing.
It's fair.
But I know that's not what Bob Dylan is necessarily trying to get you to listen to either. He's
right.
He's not trying to, if you're listening to Bob Dylan's music for his voice, you're totally missing the point, in my opinion.
Right.
You should be listening to the words at least some level. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But so that's why I appreciate, because usually people are like, you're just not looking deep enough. That's usually the first response to me is like, man, get past the singing, and then and I'm like,
well, sometimes I don't want to look deep,
Right.
I don't think there's a problem with enjoying Bob Dylan on a surface level.
Sure. No. I guess before we get too far, I guess I've totally we dove right into full on. This has never happened before. We broke all the rules today. We usually start off with just a couple key points of just, I guess first and foremost, we have our playlist to help follow along, because we're already throwing out songs, and we're going to be throwing out lots of them today, I think, that are songs that are worth being checked out. And we have the playlist. I did not change the name yet, but I'm supposed to. It's currently still Vin and Phil Show on Spotify.
Remind me later. I had a question about I had a question about
We'll take care of it. I should have been on top of it. I've been slacking, admittedly.
No, it's all good. It's all good. We talked about it once before, but then I had a couple of weeks.
No problem. But so anyway, we'll check that out. Check out the Spotify playlist, like I said, and follow along. It will be up to date by the time that this podcast is out. so you can check out all the songs that we're talking about. So if you haven't heard them already, or even if you have, and at this point, the playlist is deep and excellent. I was listening to it on my drive today.
I listen to it every day on my walk. It's a killer mix of music. It's really awesome.
So definitely worth checking it out just for the sake of checking out good music. And then next we throw out our Venmos, I suppose, see if we can, maybe somebody can help us out here survive.
Alex is making $800 tonight.
Oh, please.
Tips alone.
Yep.
Tips alone.
So, my Venmo
keep my Venmo out of this, please.
All right.
I'm not here for the money.
Well, that's fine. We'll forward it to you as soon as
send me his share.
There you go. That's it. Any money that you would be sending to
buy Vin another room in his new house.
So
a solid bathroom door instead of a sliding cardboard one.
No, I like this cabin. Fuck that, man.
Whatever.
But if you're gonna look at it that way, send me more money so I can get a better cabin.
Add a chimney to that cabin.
Yeah.
Upgrades.
I'm telling you, right there, the view alone is.
No, why aren't you outside right now? By the way,
because I don't want to do this outside. It'll be too, I don't want to do this.
It's what too beautiful, too good to look at.
Too beautiful. I'll be distracted.
What is that? The towel you used to shower earlier, hanging right there. That's good to look at.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
It's
right
great.
there.
No, this is great. Yeah,
that's it.
We're getting the whole view.
In case I get a little sweaty, just
this is good.
Wipe
no,
off
good.
right there.
It's getting hot. So you can we'll have all our Venmos and Instagram and all that crap in the description as always, and they'll be popping up on screen as usual. Feel free to send some love our way if you got some love to send our way. And I guess other than that, Vin, you working on any new projects? You got any new music to talk about?
I have a bunch of new tunes in the can now. At this point, I got like 4 that are pretty much ready to go, and a couple that are out. Steve Kirsty once again is laying down some upright tracks. So I'm waiting on that. And we'll see what comes of that. But I did just release Country Blues in Quarantine, and I updated my website today.
Awesome.
And you can hear that music at my website for free, which is just vinmott.com. Or if you really enjoy the music and you wanna help support live music, you can buy it at bandcamp.com.
I have heard the album and it's good.
He gives it a.
They don't call them assholes for nothing.
Review.
It's. I would call it music.
Yeah, there you go. It
It has guitars and harmonica.
Oh, Alex, I've missed you, bud. I've missed you so much.
It's got a rhythm. It's got good rhythm. But what they always say about the Beatles, it's got a good beat and you can dance to it. What do you like about music these days?
You, bud.
It's got a good beat and I can dance to it.
Well, I guess I have one new song coming out for my lo-fi project coming out at the end of the month. It's due for release on September 25th.
Beautiful.
It's with our brother, Mark Dollar, featured artist on the track.
Hottest man alive.
First one that I've done as a collaboration track with anybody. So I'm excited about it. And already know when Mark's putting guitar on something.
Yeah, it's going to be dope.
So check that out and keep an eye out for it.
Absolutely.
And if you follow me on Spotify, it'll pop into your release radar. Check it out. Well, let's dive on in. Let's fucking let's talk about this here band.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So Alex Tierney, not only did Alex get me into this band and teach me everything that I know about this band, but he also at one point when I was getting into them, I was getting into reading as well, like reading biographies and shit, which is pretty rare for me. Surprise. And
I taught them how to read.
He actually suggested that I read the Levon Helm autobiography. This Wheel's on Fire, right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Which I, to this day, still recommend to just about anybody
To just about anybody
wants a good yarn.
Yeah, really, really badass book. Anyway, I'm going to talk about how there seems to be at least, well, let me rephrase this. I'm going to talk about how there's a common theme of like a carnival in the band's music. It's definitely something that they were conscious of, I think. And I think there are just some songs that, like, to me, conjure that sort of imagery. And I think a lot of it has to do with their songwriting style. Let me get my notes up here. So apparently Robbie Robertson was a carny at one point. Is that right, Alex? I'm kind of deferring to Alex as well on most of this.
Yeah, like for a bit, he's had still has some weird lifelong obsession with carnivals and clowns. And there's stories about him just like stopping while they're on tour, stopping the whole kind of caravan to just stare at carnivals. It's a weird sort of. He was in a movie. He was in a movie. I don't know if he wrote it or not, called Carney at one point in the 80s or something, maybe early 90s, 80s, or I've never seen it, but.
And I think, didn't he travel with like a carnival as like a teenager?
I believe so.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty
sure.
I've
read his book, and it's kind of hard with that guy. Some things aren't quite, the stories he tells aren't really, maybe not quite the most accurate
take him with a grain of salt.
So yeah, it's hard to. Yeah. Not that he's a liar, but he embellishes.
Right,
embellishes.
Well, regardless, the theme of the carnival is a real thing, and I think that a lot of the tunes that were written and came from this band are meant to have a sort of a whimsical kind of vibe to them.
Well, the whole second album, that self-titled one, is really like about this time of year, like fall, harvest time. It's a big thing down in the South to have a big, it's your most productive time of the year. You've worked all summer, slaving in the sun to grow your whatever, your corn or your beans or your hay or whatever it is. And it all comes and becomes available this time of year. So that's like, you're driving around rural areas. The farm stands right now are full, completely full of tomatoes and corn, and some of that stuff's been coming for a while, but now's like the time where most things that you grow end right now. So when your life, like Levon Helm's life as a kid, or his area is a rural agriculture area, you get this time of year where this is your celebration time. Everybody's in a good mood. Everything is bountiful. And so that like translates a lot into the music that they're playing at the time, which then through Levon Helm comes into Robbie Robertson's life and the rest of the band's life, and why these songs have that. Take Rag Mama Rag, the second song, third song on that second album. It's like the most joyous piece of music you'd ever hear in your life, I swear. And it's all about like coming together as a town or as a county or whatever, and having your fall carnival or whatever.
True.
And celebrating this stuff. And that's why there's this air of celebration and carnival.
Yes.
And, in these songs, there's sort of like, and it's sort of why, like, when this time of year comes, you sort of find yourself, Ben, I'm sure, listening to these songs a lot more and talking about these guys a lot more.
Yeah.
It's like,
this is right when like that time starts for me. Although down here in Texas, it doesn't feel the same way it feels back home, but
no,
it's like pushing 100 degrees every day.
It's hard to, it's hard to live in a place like Texas because if you're not used to it, you don't get that, crisp air and take what you leave of the snow, but I don't know, it's sort of a part way of life up here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, anyway, I think so. All that stuff that you just talked about, makes its way into like every aspect of the instrumentation. And like so what gives their songs, you know, what helps with this theme is like Garth's sounds on the organ, you know, the sounds.
Right. Well, Garth gets, when you think of an organ, you think of the Hammond organ, right? Which is like the B3, the church. 95% of the organs you hear in your life are Hammond organs.
Right.
But Garth opts for this Lowry organ, which is like a cheaper, not a toy, but doesn't sound that far off, but it's like, it sounds like a carnival.
Phil is
it sounds like you're, so you know the Lowry organ.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're shooting a gun and blowing up a balloon, you know? It's like, it's the same thing. Or you're riding a carousel in a circle. It's like the same organ.
Yeah.
It sounds the exact same. It sounds nothing like a B3, but it's a really like, when you put it in this context of a band, it gave them such a unique carnival sound, you know? They really did. It was like such a different. There's no setting on the B3.
That mixed with the like Richard's like old timey piano style,
right?
You know, like
an upright piano that you rip all the wood on the top off.
Heavy rhythmic aspect of Richard Manuel's kind of almost ragtimey style.
Big kind of Ray Charles influence on that piano there, kind of you know, barrel house.
Yeah.
Polka almost sometimes it sounds like.
Exactly.
Richard was a fucking beast.
They all thing. This band, like all of them were fucking they all needed to be there. You know what I mean?
Five people that are basically the tip of the mountain of the instrument that they play, and they play
it's
a couple other instruments.
It's interesting because
not great.
They essentially were a super group, but people I don't really hear people talk about them the way that other super groups were like put together to be super groups. But they kind of
because a super group that comes. I mean, you're talking about a group that formed
they came up
over
together. You know,
what,
like
15. I mean, by the time the last waltz comes around in 76, they've been on the road for 16 years or something at that point. So you're talking about it's hard, you know, they're the best at what they were doing in, you know, a random part of Toronto in 1962, you know, so like certainly that's great. And then when they came down here, they practiced so much that by the time anyone was paying attention to them, they were certainly the best what to do, but like a super group built in a different way, I suppose.
Sure.
You know?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to give you some examples of where to me, it like they have like this whimsical carnival sound in the chord progressions. I think the chord progressions have, so everything, one thing to say is mostly everything. And there's times where they modulate and stuff, but whatever key they're in, they stay pretty hard diatonic, with the exception of the 2, 3, and 6 major chords, which I think that's what gives it that whimsical feel, you know, in the chords. So like the first one I thought of was Across the Great Divide, right? And the chord, it's in the key of G, it's just G, then A major, C, E minor, D, right? It's like, right? Alex, do I have that right? I should defer to you still.
Yeah. I usually do an A7 right there. But.
Yeah. A7, yeah. Even better. Even more my point. Something about that A major or dominant 7, whatever the major triad on it.
It's hard to get you know, when you're getting into a 4-part chord with a lot of these songs, it's hard to figure out what that 4th part is, if it even exists.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of like, sometimes they're never quite in tune. Maybe someone's playing a 7th, but the rest of the band isn't.
Right.
It gets a little murky.
Yeah.
On some of these tunes in that sense. And maybe one time they'll play a 7th pretty clearly, but then the next time they don't.
Yeah.
Or they'll, you know, Robbie tends to play like the high 7, so we play that high G up there.
Right.
but sometimes he doesn't. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's a little funky.
So that like major chord mixed with like I said before, the organ and the piano just playing that Fats Domino feel, right? Just makes it feel like a carnival, and like you said, like celebratory, you know. Another one is Jawbone, right?
You talked about this one before.
Yeah, we talked about this one before. It's on
Jawbone's
this
gnarly.
one's on the playlist already.
Jawbone might be is a top favorite of mine personally. I think
Right.
there's just something about that track.
This one's got a lot of cool chord changes, right? So it comes in, right? It's like a, I mean, I guess it's kind of like an E, but then they start where the intro kind of starts. It's F, B, A, E. No, I'm sorry, F sharp. F sharp, B, A, E.
And again,
Right.
I would call that an F sharp 7. To really get that nice kind of, because you're just leading right to the B, so it's sort of the one time where they actually did it. It makes sense.
Yeah. But everything's major there.
Yeah.
Right. The verses, right? D. The verse kind of. So here it kind of modulates, right? To like D, G, E minor, C, A. Then the chorus is in E. So E, C sharp minor. And then what's this? What do you play on this here? Well, the riff, right? You'd play, but what's the chord though?
There's no chord. They're all playing the riff.
Nah, but there's a chord
I suppose you
underneath
could
it.
play a B, but
Yeah, I'm calling it like a B7 add 9.
but there's nobody playing a chord right there. They're all playing that riff. Bass is playing it. The guitar's playing it. The keyboard's playing it.
I'm pretty sure somebody's playing that. The organ. The organ or something.
I might disagree with you on that, but okay. Maybe.
Oh, Jawbone, I know, come on home.
And
So
I
that
think,
one has like to me, it has like a carnival feel to it.
yeah. And if you want to talk stylistically about that song, it's like, what a recording, however many minutes it is. Was it 3 minutes or something?
But
It's like
it takes you.
It's not clearly wasn't mastered the same way as the rest of the albums. The second to last song on the album, last song on the album, second
Something
class.
like that. Yeah.
And it's this weird, like, they never played it live, never did anything like that. It really only exists on this one album. There's no
so
in all
great.
the
That's
special
the one,
edition
that's
stuff
the one
they've
with that
done.
sweet solo.
It's the one with this. It's the one with probably Robbie's dopest solo. Yeah. That I like out of reverence for it. I've never even tried to learn it, but it's like they're clearly all in the same room. Everything's mixed. It sounds like there's maybe one mic. Like it's like how they record that old Louie track. The Kingsman.
Right.
Mic came from the ceiling,
hung a
probably
microphone off the fucking light.
something like that.
Yeah.
And it just sounds so gnarly. They're like, the beats aren't the same when they transition from part A to from the A section to the B section. They're like coming in early sometimes. They're all trying to catch up. It's like, but then they just put it out like that. It's crazy to do that. But it's like, makes that song so perfect.
Yeah.
The best thing about listening to the band is listening to when they're sort of sloppy.
Right.
I think it's like, what a joy. Like, it's great to hear bands nail everything perfectly, and that's fun. And I think that's cool too. But I love listening to a band be kind of sloppy
because
and
they you know why I like that same exact thing too, though, because they were doing it at the same time as like when rock and roll was becoming rock and roll for essentially, you know what I mean? And they like by the time like they became the band and Ronnie Hawkins had moved on from the group and stuff, like they had already had a full career in rockabilly, before they recorded anything at the Basement Tapes or Big Pink. They had already had like a full career as a touring rockabilly group.
Sure.
So they come from like the blues and from early country music and shit, where it's more about the way you're playing it.
Right.
It's more about the feel and shit like that.
Right.
So
yeah, and if we wanted to get into all about the way they're choosing
so
to play,
cool to me,
yeah.
Because
if you want to talk about, we could talk
they're
for
just old school.
We could talk for hours about sort of how they all played their instruments, but if you want to talk about Robbie, it's not about being the flashiest guy on the block, though he has his little moments where he puts his hand up when he hits a note, but it's about like playing the song really well. I mean, Robbie, you're talking about Robbie, the guy who plugs his guitar directly into an amp, and he has no pedals. He has the same tone for every single song that he plays on stage, and he never changes it, which is dope. It's like that's the coolest thing you can do in the whole world. You have a guitar plugged into an amp, and you present your music out to the world that way, basically. And you've got Levon, who's doing. You listen to Up on Cripple Creek on that Self-Head album. Some of like the drum fills he do are just 3 notes. 2 stomps on the bass drum and 1 hit on the snare, and that's a fill.
Yeah,
like nobody does. You're talking about what's that? 19. I mean, we're talking early 68, 69. But there's still like Levon did that his whole career, even with people coming on.
Funny.
You think of Neil Peart and Levon Helm being so opposite.
Yeah,
of a spectrum of drummers. Who Levon has the most basic kit that you could ever possibly imagine.
Coolest, some of the coolest kits too.
But he's playing it the best.
Yeah,
he's doing the best.
Yeah,
less is more.
It's funny that you brought up on Cripple Creek because back when I was teaching at the Montclair School of Rock, before I moved down here, I used to use Cripple Creek all the time with my beginners. Because you can get the beginner kids to like play because it's slow, kind of a slow enough tempo to get them to play like an 8th note groove and hold it for like whatever 4 bars before they fuck it up. But like I'd get everybody, all my students played Up on Cripple Creek, And the first thing, like even older kids, I'd like if they were taking a lesson with me for the first time or a makeup, I put that one on. Just tell them, just jam along with this. You'll hear what it is. You'll be able to jam along even if you don't know the part.
Yeah.
And the first thing they do wrong is they try to play these big arena rock fills.
Nah, it doesn't work.
It's like no, it's just you know what I mean? Like and only at the end of phrases, like never 2 bars in a row. You know what I mean?
You gotta sing.
Yeah,
dude's singing while he's playing these drums. You can't do that much.
Yeah,
it's not even that he couldn't; it's that he wouldn't because that's not where the music was going.
Right.
Back to what I was saying there. Jawbone, right? Obviously, life is a carnival. The intro. Take a listen to the intro on the Spotify playlist. And I challenge anyone listening to tell me where beat 1 is in the intro. It's tough. It's doable, but it's tough. It's Phil. If you don't know this one that well, like check it out. Because there you go. Yeah. And everything like in the intro is just swirling. The horns on this one's on Rock of Ages, right? With those fucking horns, man, those Alan Toussaint horns. Fucking, it sounds like a fucking merry-go-round.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I was driving down from New Hampshire today, so I had a few hours in the car. And I listened to. They put out that big box set a few years back of like Rock of Ages Times 4. It's like a bunch of full concerts from there, all And they actually brought the speed down so you can play along with the regular instrument, which is dope. But I was listening to that. Where was I going? Oh yeah, the horns. Me and Vin have talked a lot about horns in rock and roll and sort of who does it best.
It was one of our favorite things, man. I'm telling you, if you guys out
between the Rolling Stones, Aerosmith, honestly, and the band, it's like you've got the trinity of how horns in rock and roll need to sound.
Wow.
And you can listen to, I mean, they've been on Exile on Main Street from the Rolling Stones is perfect. Aerosmith has some of the best horns, rock and roll horns of any band that's ever lived, I think. And the band's horns are not, they're different because they're written to the song and written as like a part. But you've also got the band horns on album 1, album 2, Big Pink, and the self-titled Brown album that are played by the guys that don't really play them. They're played by the band members who pick up an instrument. They call themselves the Salvation Army horns, which you've ever seen on, the road. They don't really do it much anymore, but you watch A Christmas Story or something.
Yeah.
Christmas time, the Salvation Army would send people out that were amateurs at best at playing horns with sheet music that they'd tape to the instrument they're playing. Sort of, they'd work their way through these Christmas carols, and they'd be, they had their moments where they're together, but they're kind of not quite in tune with each other, but it's sort of like is a sound. So you get that on the first 2 albums. By the time Rock of Ages comes out, they've got professional hornmen from New York playing Alan Toussaint charts, so they sound great too, but they still like Alan Toussaint being from New Orleans writes them a little sloppy.
Yeah.
Writes them kind of behind the beat, and
it's gotta be a little, gotta be a little greasy.
Some of the best horns. Yeah, I mean, rock and roll horns are tough.
Yeah,
they're not always good. They gotta be just in the right spot. Rolling Stones, Aerosmith, the band. Aerosmith may even be the first. Skinner's got good horns, but not. They get a little buried. Aerosmith horns, I'm telling you. As an aside, the horns that do look like a lady are sick. they really are.
They are. No, they're really good. Yeah.
They do have to do horns
another
better than
band
almost
that,
anybody.
like, just being in Boston, I was like, well, I like, I only knew the stuff I knew from classic rock radio. I didn't know like all the tunes on Toys in the Attic or all those early Aerosmith records.
Say what you will about Boston.
Really, I was a really big fan for a good. I had like an era of like Aerosmith, all the Boston bands, Boston, fucking Jay Giles band. Like I had.
I mean, Jay Giles band.
I mean, I'm still in like Jay Giles era, but yeah. Okay.
This is an incredible side, but I've always been a huge fan of live albums. Finn can attest.
The band obviously has 2 of the greatest live albums.
2 of the greatest live albums. Jay Giles band has one of the greatest live albums as well.
Yeah. Yep.
That Blow Your Face Out album.
Blow Your Face Out. Yeah, it's the best
one.
Man.
That's a party band. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I got one more tune that I wanted to bring up, but Alex, I want to ask you if you know the riff to it. Now obviously there's other tunes that the band wrote that like are even like about a carnival or like maybe sound carnival to you, but these are just the ones that came off the top of my head today. But the last one, Alex, do you know the riff to W.S. Walcott Medicine Show?
I do, yes.
Yes, let me hear it because I was gonna embarrass myself.
It's been a bit. Give me a couple tries. It's tough.
All right.
Recorded with delay. One of the few times Robbie's got effects on his guitar. This song, Tears of Rage, he's got like an organ effect, like a Leslie effect on it. What do you call that? No, I don't know. Recorded in the studio with delay, but done live without it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That one to me has that carnival vibe, And that riff, that's where I was saying to you, man. Like, When I talked about Robbie a couple of weeks ago, I totally forgot that this is one of the best riffs, like in hit rock and roll. Period. You know what I mean? Like it's right up there with Brown Sugar. You know, I don't know. All the, obviously I have I have a type with women and I have a type with guitar players, and guys like Robbie and guys like fucking Keith are like my type. That's my type. Hell yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah. So that's about it for me, man. I just wanted to talk about how the band sometimes sounds like a carnival, and life is a carnival.
Wow, that's deep. That's deep. Yeah.
I like there's a video actually going back to Life is a Carnival of it's on, you can find the clip on YouTube if you just type in like Life is a Carnival, Levon Helm. But it's Levon like giving like a drum lesson. I think it's for like a drum video back in like the 80s or
Levon's got a drum video out. Rick Daco's got a bass video out too.
And he's explaining how to count the intro to Life is a Carnival, and he's like playing it and stuff. It's really dope. It's dope, and it's like kind of funny too. He's like kind of a character. You know what I mean? You've never seen it. Look that video.
Will do. I mean, I don't have too much that I'm going to jump in with on the today. Like I said, I really came to be educated, and so far it's been quite excellent. You guys are definitely knowlegeable as hell.
Yeah,
I'm glad to sit back and be like,
I can't stress enough that like this was like me. First of all, you guys got to know. I wanted to say it earlier, and you guys got to know like back in my college Boston era, like me and Alex became like basically we were like best friends, like inseparable, and music was obviously our biggest thing. Music and fucking Budweiser basically was like our fucking whole basis of our friendship. And we like at the time, me and Alex, as you see, Alex is so knowledgeable about the history of this band and of rock and roll. Man, me and Alex, yo, I know one of your favorite stories is when me and you took that history of rock and roll class at Berkeley. And what a joke it was, because me and you were like busting at the seams every day we had this class, and like the teacher had to like calm us down, like, okay, boys, we know.
Yeah, we took
only class I got straight A's.
Only class we got 100 on the test. We took, and it was so funny because you go to Berkeley and you think that there's the like wealth of talent and music knowledge is really through the roof. When you're sitting in the cafeteria, you look around and everybody there can answer all these specific questions about music because we all had to be tested to get in at that point. But then you go take this history of rock. I believe it was called History of Rock.
Yeah,
music.
We were, and I forget what it was, but like I think we didn't even know we both took it at the same semester, and then
we
realized it like the day before school. We were like, "Yo, you're in that class too? Oh shit!"
And it was like it was a dope class. The teacher was great. What was his name?
I forget his name, but I can see his face clearly.
Ken bass player, and he would just present us music all class and talk about it. We would do.
Yeah, it was
Profile
dope.
Harem one day, and he would talk about how you when you play a whiter shade of pale, it's easy because you just go down the fretboard the whole time, and you never have to do anything different. Like funny things from a touring bass player covering classic rock all over the country, basically. But the rest of the kids in the class were struggling.
They were like struggling.
They like just
me and Alex were like coming in like
they didn't know this stuff, but it's like alley, this is like we're talking about Little Richard, we're talking about Ray Charles, and we're talking about like, dude, like don't you like any of this stuff? Like, what? You don't know anything about Little Richard? Like, they're like, oh yeah, I know like Tutti Frutti. It's like, great,
good,
like cool,
good
like
song,
cool. That's an important thing.
That's not the only one.
You don't know, like you couldn't pick up a bass and play.
Yeah. Dude, that's the whole way, like, our whole crew, me, you, and our whole crew got together because we were, like, the rock kids. We were like the rock
It
and
was
roll
like
guys.
so
You know,
weird. The stuff that I had spent so much of my time as a late from a kid to a teenager learning about was like nobody else did this. You guys didn't do the same thing I did.
Yeah,
Like,
you weren't like listening to entire
We didn't-
Creedence Clearwater Revival records senior year of high school.
Yeah,
like,
you don't have thoughts on your favorite
what were you
Creedence Clearwater
what were you
song
doing?
and what the best
Like,
John Fogerty lyric is? Like,
yeah,
get out of here.
you weren't listening to Stax records when you
Yeah,
were
like, you don't know
a
anything
sophomore in
about
high
Otis.
school.
Like, you know
Like,
nothing about Otis Redding other than sitting on the dock of the bay. That's insane. You guys never even heard of Steve Cropper.
yeah,
Get out of here. And then
Dumbass.
like the final exam came around, and me and Vin just like, just first one was done.
oh my god, dude, it made me feel like such a champion.
I won't name him, but we knew another kid in the class specifically, and remember he got like an 80 on the final exam.
Oh wait, what was his name? What did we call him?
He lives around you now. I wouldn't want to.
Oh, I know who it is.
But it's like, dude, how did you not?
Enough said.
How'd you do bad in this? I don't get it. How'd you do mediocre in this class? Did you take the classic rock guitar player class that I took there too? That was the woman who we watched DVDs with.
I think
We'd watch a Rolling Stones DVD. It was like a 2-hour class.
Yeah,
Watch a Rolling Stones DVD, and then she'd play Keith riffs for it once it ended to fill up the 2 hours.
Hilarious.
Incredible.
Those were the only classes I really like. You know, it was just because I didn't have to track it. I felt like such a genius in those classes where like everything else, like it really wasn't that I couldn't handle the other class. Some of the gen eds, I mean, obviously, some of the gen eds, like I didn't give a fuck about, you know, but like some of them I just like wasn't trying just because I was an idiot then. But like,
you only offered one.
Those classes were like a savior. It was like, oh my god, thank God, like there's one class I can like truly just like do nothing for, not have to study, and ace every time. Every week me and you would just be like finishing the guy's sentences. He's like, all right guys, we know you know this, we know.
Sorry, we're just
like,
excited.
me and you would be like chomping at the bit every week.
And then he played Piano Man, which is just the best drinking song in the world.
Yes.
We talked about that a couple weeks ago.
We've done a Piano Man day here.
We did.
It's just one of those songs that when you hear it, it really wants to make you have a beer.
Yeah.
That, I mean, we won't go all the way back into it, but yeah, no, the song.
Few songs can do that, but that one definitely can.
It was. It seems it was so perfectly intentional. Like it was intentionally written for that, and then did it like perfectly, truly. Like
absolutely,
it's a remarkable song. But it was funny that you mentioned it just because I can't help every time Vinny says the word carnival. And I can't help but think about that one lyric out of Piano Man, you know, like you know, every time you were saying that, I was like, oh,
it sounds like a carnival.
Yeah, I mean, it is like pianos do have that specific sound. It's hard to pinpoint what
because of the they can arpeggiate really.
Yeah, well, the stride piano, but there's
crazy
stride piano kind of style, but there's like. Some pianos, when you look at them, you just know how they're going to sound just from looking at them.
True, right.
And it's like, it's an upright where the hammers are right past your fingers. And you can see them. And it's not like, do you know what I'm talking about? I don't know what they're called.
Well, there's spinets, you know, like are you talking about like actual types of pianos and stuff like that?
I think I'm talking about actual pianos. I don't know.
I don't know enough about the uprights. I know that there are like, the one I grew up on was a spinet, and that is a different setup in terms of like the soundboard sits lower. It's it doesn't come up as high, and then you know uprights over like high.
If you ever go back and watch Ray, the Ray Charles movie, there's a scene where he like first discovers a piano that's being played by some guy in the back of a country store in his village, I guess, and he's playing that type of piano. Where you can see they've I guess they've taken the wood off, or I don't know, it's old enough that it's sort of come off, but that type of piano. That my point here is, when you see like the band, that's the type of when you listen to the band, that's the type of what you're hearing basically, and that's the type of piano that like was utilitarian and used by a ton of people, and was brought out when it was a celebration time. And here we are again at celebration time. You listen to the end of Rag Mama Rag on that second album, and it's like the most joyous piece of piano.
Yeah.
He just arpeggios right up the keys to the very top note, and it's just a beautiful thing.
Sure.
And that's kind of what I'm getting at.
I guess, one of the turning points for me where I started to like really do my best to go educate myself on the band, because I had definitely done that in the past, but not in depth. This was a couple years ago. I was playing, still playing with a band called the Mike Montre Band, and we had a chance to go stay at Big Pink overnight. We played a gig in Saugerties, and then also just stayed there overnight. And it was, I guess I'm that type of person who feels the vibe of it. I get, there was something to it, even for me, they weren't necessarily the heroes. They're amazing people. Like don't get it twisted. Like I said, they just weren't like a focus of my upbringing musically. So, but at the same time, I could feel that same way. I sat down. I know when I woke up in the morning and I sat down at the desk where the typewriter was, that I was like, I don't know if Bob actually sat here every day, but I could imagine.
I mean, they say he did.
Yeah, they said
the band members have said it. I'm sure the furniture's different by now, but
they said he didn't live there, but he had his own place and he would come stay. He would be the first
he was
one.
up the road. That's why they ended up there.
Right.
Dylan moved up there when he had the motorcycle accident, which you can call, a lot of question on whether or not that was actually a thing or not.
Right.
And he basically ended up there. It seemed like it was right after that European tour, 65, 66 or so. And maybe he just wanted to get away from it all for a bit, which is fair. You ever watch that Scorsese documentary, like the 4-hour-long one, No Direction Home? It's like, dude was a wreck by the end of that thing,
Sure.
And he moves up there, so he has the band come up there because he had asked at the time to hire the band. He asked people basically, who's the loudest band I can get right now? He really wanted to, make a point here.
The Hawks.
Yeah.
Gets the Hawks. They're not the Hawks quite anymore, so they sign on for that, do the tour, whatnot. Levon takes some time off and actually goes to Berkeley for a semester, remember?
Yeah.
But they all end up there, and they rent this house. There's only a couple of them actually living there. I can't remember exactly who. But the routine was basically, they'd get up by late morning, early afternoon. Bob would come over, make some coffee, sit at the typewriter at the large window in the living room and write a song or two or something. Or there'd sort of be, and he would leave the roll in, the paper that he was working on in the typewriter at the time. So it was grabbed by anybody. So there's where some other members of the band adding words here and there. Who knows, but they'd take that, head down to the basement, record all night, basically. And then just do the same thing over and over again for a number of days. So legend says, yes, he sat at that window and typed up songs. Bob Dylan has never said anything about it, but
he hasn't said anything about it.
Has anyone ever just asked him to his face, hey, did you sit at that fucking chair, didn't you?
I mean, he would say,
nobody over the course of history ever just
he
went
would
up
say,
to him and
does
said,
anybody
hey,
ever sit at a chair?
I just want to fucking know, did you sit at the fucking window and write those fucking songs every day?
I think people figured out you can't just ask Bob Dylan a question and expect him to just answer.
Because you'll never get a straight answer.
You got to ask him a weird question, and then maybe you'll get.
It's got to be an offshoot, and somehow
even that's I just watched this Scorsese documentary not that long ago. It was on TV. Maybe
I was going to say it's on Netflix right now. For those of us who don't have cable,
can't recommend it enough. That's a great one. It covers Bob Dylan's career, start of his career, or his birth, basically up until the end of that European tour with the band. Basically, there's a lot of shots of Robbie in that. Robbie was sitting next to Bob Dylan a lot, which when you look back at it, is of course Robbie was sitting next to Bob Dylan this whole time because he's writing all these crazy songs that are I don't know that he was writing songs in the Hawks. I doubt it. I don't know who wrote. There's a couple of that box set, the band
They
box set,
probably
musical
just
history.
did a lot of songs of the time. The Hawks,
right, but there's a
I would
couple.
imagine.
There's a couple originals on that band box set when they became Levon. When they stopped being Ronnie, when they stopped being the Hawk with Ronnie Hawkins, they became Levon and the Hawks for a bit. When it was the core five still, and there's a couple early recordings. A great song called "He Don't Love You and He'll Break Your Heart" that I'm pretty sure they wrote. That's awesome, but I don't know who. It's not clear who wrote it at that point. I mean, it's not clear who wrote any of the band songs.
Sure,
but it was probably Robbie.
But for me, it was just that experience was. I felt on the way up, if I'm going to go stay at this place, I should definitely go listen to like songs from Big Pink. You know, like I should absolutely be up on that stuff. And I was familiar with the basement tapes and that stuff just because I think. Well, I was familiar with it already, and then there was that thing a couple years ago where they had like current artists do their versions of the basement. I don't know if you saw that thing. It wasn't just current artists. I think Elvis Costello did one also.
Yeah. The new basement tapes, they took Dylan lyrics from sort of the time period and made a new album out of it. Lyrics that had never been recorded.
Right. So So like that was when that resurfaced, but that wasn't why I like went and checked that out.
Yeah.
And I recognized.
Well, the 50th was not that long ago, so there was a bunch of hoo-ha around that stuff. 2016, 17, 18 was sort of like a big
But yeah, no. So I mean, I really was trying to just get myself educated again. And I went through it, and I there's no question that I get it, and I sincerely do love a lot of it. Like,
and as a keyboard player, both piano and color keys.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't get just like kind of like I hate to keep comparing the band and Bruce Springsteen and the band, but you know the the piano plus color keys in the band thing, you know, like those are two really classic combos.
Yeah.
Between Roy Bittan and Danny Federici and Richard Manuel and Garth Hudson.
Yeah.
Like
it
really is a beautiful, beautiful brotherhood.
Doesn't really happen much. Like, why would you bother with two separate keyboard players in a band? You know what I mean?
Listen, for sheerly just the sake of touring purposes, what are you thinking? Like,
I would love to like there's not enough. I'm sure there's a little bit of it. I'd have to go reread the Levon book that I was mentioning earlier. I'm sure he talks about it a little bit, but there's never enough about like they always just have stories about the early touring days of any band, but like, and this one especially, I'm interested in for that reason. But like, there's never enough information. Like tell me about how much it sucked balls to load whatever fucking trailer you were towing at the time to fucking to tour at that time in the fucking early 60s.
They're
using in a fucking what was it? It was like a station wagon, right?
Yeah, they basically had two big like Cadillacs.
The story of Dr. John watching them fucking
seeing them drive by,
flying down the highway in New Orleans. Dr. John's just like on his fire escape smoking a cigarette watching this.
But they had, I mean, context-wise, a piano wouldn't have gone with them. It would have been there already. And part of us coming to play is that you provide us with a piano, which most of those places that they're playing at,
maybe. I mean, maybe they toured with a piano.
No, it was definitely there. There's no way they
maybe the piano, but the organ was not.
The organ they catered on, but the Lowry organ
wasn't.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's not that big.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not a Hammond.
Yeah. It's not like a B3, and I think if I remember, it's got internal speakers or
something like that. So it's not like that wild to think about, but a piano definitely would have been at the place already. They would have played a different piano every night.
Yeah.
There's just no way. I mean, there's no way they took the piano.
Obviously, that's something I could see happening.
Yeah. No. But yeah. So that I mean, and I guess. In terms of what song I'd like to talk about tonight, it's just real short. I don't know about the song being all that short, but I guess it brought new meaning to it when we got to stay down in the basement. Like, it's the shitty part about staying at Big Pink is it's essentially an Airbnb, and the guy I understand why he does what he does, but obviously you go to Big Pink and you want to just fucking be in the basement and just play songs and just and just go through them nonstop, and you don't really get that opportunity. They brought us down.
It's a separate thing, right? Don't they tell you if you rent the top you can't go downstairs?
No, it's locked off. We were there for a whole night, and then like the next day, the current owner comes in and gives you essentially a tour and like a whole spiel about what's going on.
Essentially, it probably makes sense. There'd probably be some wild shit happened down there if it's open to anybody that rents the house.
Yeah, no, I totally understand why, listen, it would be way too easy to just get hammered, go downstairs and just start, playing the instruments and stuff. It's too easy. But so I totally get it. But at the same time, I as a musician, that's what you want. but right. So they did give us the opportunity to do that. And then after he, gave his talk, did let us play a couple songs, and we played "I Shall Be Released." what a beautiful song, anyway. And like I guess it's I always feel like I end up picking the low hanging fruit always. Anytime we talk about any artist or anything, and I always feel like I'm picking the song that's like, yeah, no duh, and it's like, but that one,
this one, I don't know that it's low hanging fruit, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that it's but as beautiful as a song as it was already, for me, the added factor of then having that experience of just being in the basement, and I don't know I don't even think that song was written there. Like I don't.
It was.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, it's actually a Dylan song.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. But so well then screw it. I got to pick another song then, huh?
Isn't there a version of Bob Dylan
certainly made its own by that beautiful falsetto on the recording of it.
Yeah. Was it Rick or was it Richard?
Oh, that's Richard. Richard all the way.
Yeah.
The only one with anytime there's high harmonies on a band song, it's Richard 100% of the time. Rockin' Chair, he does both, sings it and does the high harmonies on the chorus. Good for him.
Isn't there a version of "I Shall Be Released" with Bob Dylan singing the whole thing?
Yeah, well, from the last waltz, there's like the early basement tape versions of it. Yes, that has Bob Dylan singing the whole thing because he sang basically everything down there. At the last waltz, I think the story goes Richard was so drunk by the time that last song came on that he missed his cue.
The one damn fucking time they show him on camera, he's like wasted.
He's wasted. He does. It's also the only time that he sings it not in a falsetto, which is kind of nice. Personally, I'm not. Just crucify me what you will, but as far as "I Shall Be Released" as a song goes, Jerry Garcia played it with his solo band a lot better than the band ever did it, I think.
Gonna fucking.
I'll show my T-shirt real quick.
Jesus.
I don't know. And
as a point,
the falsetto takes me out of it. It's a beautiful song. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I skip it when I hear the band playing it or dislike it, but I think a song sung in a male falsetto it just doesn't do anything for me personally.
It's possible that actually weighs into my, the reason I like the song as well. I didn't mention I was raised on Grateful Dead. My dog's named Jerry. It's very possible that there's some feeling towards it for that reason as well. That
sure.
I have no doubt that in my growing up that my father was listening to that version as well, and it doesn't even strike me as like, oh, that's where that would be. But that totally makes sense that I would have some. Like I said, with this particular song, I suppose it's just an emotional. Not, and I don't mean like, oh, I'm just gonna start sobbing, but just that, like I said, there was something, I guess, somewhat surreal or powerful to be in the basement and to be playing that song,
Yeah, that's crazy.
I guess that moment will just forever be a moment for me, and that's why it's become. And I think that it absolutely helped my appreciation grow for them. Not that it shouldn't have naturally already, but it it definitely helped me go, okay, I felt this, that thing that I felt was real, like, so let me.
I mean, the band is an interesting group in the sense that you know a couple songs by them and they're classic. So it's like once you first of all, what I don't get, but I give, it's fine. You know these two songs, you know the weight, and you probably only know the weight sometimes for a lot of people. You like it. Why don't you listen to more of them? But once you actually like get into it, everybody that I know that really kind of gets into it, this band is just elevated to the top of their list.
It's one of those things that they're a musician's band. You know what I mean? If you have, and not to say that it's just musicians appreciate them, but it's that they like operated on a higher level than all the other pop and rock artists and groups and shit of their time, and I think that yeah,
I mean,
they were doing, like I said, like by the time they became the band, they already had made their bones as a wild, like fucking crazy rockabilly band,
But
like they got all the punk rock fucking shit out of their system, and they were like, all right, we're gonna make fucking music that we want to make now, and fucking. To me, they're like a musician's musician.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But, I mean, my wife, who is not a musician by any means, has also started to like them a lot, just because when I'm driving, I'm in charge of the music, and this is what usually comes up.
Yeah,
they're just it's like, one of those things where
they're
you just
accessible to everybody,
because
they're so Americana sounding.
Right.
And
if you look at the arc of the career as well, you'll look back to when Big Pink comes out, 1968, and the first song on the album is slow and it has no guitar solos in it whatsoever.
Remember, I was like, I don't get it. The first time, like that first few months, I knew you. I was like, I don't get it.
Rage,
why would you start with a slow song? And then
Tears of Rage
over time,
opens that first album, and it's a slow.
It's a gorgeous
organ piano song sung by Richard that's kind of like sad almost, and it's bizarre way to start. I mean, 1960. What else is coming out in 1968? Yeah, Electric Flag's first album comes out in 68, and the Killing Floor, and to start that is like the most frenetic blues you can think of. I don't know why that's the one that popped in my head, but I think that's about the same time.
Yeah, definitely.
Influential that
we're in like acid rock era.
Eric Clapton stops creaming its tracks in an instant and travels all the way to Woodstock, New York to try to join the band. Who said no? Good thing. But it's like, what's been so influential? Jimi Hendrix probably, like on a different level in a way, but like this is the same time as Jimi Hendrix. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's crazy.
Right.
This mountain folk music, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Nuts.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's accessible. The songs are good. I mean, for me, the band really exists.
I said kind of earlier, almost everything is it hangs in their diatonic fucking frames, right?
Sure.
And like that's what makes it like easy to listen to for anybody.
It's not complicated.
It's not challenging to listen to.
I think it's also important to think about. In my mind, I think about the band, and I focus mostly on the first 3 albums: Music from Big Pink, the self-titled Brown, Stage Fright, and the 2 live albums, which is Rock of Ages and The Last Waltz.
Yeah.
Cahoots is fine. It's got When I Paid My Masterpiece on it, which is good, but it's also got that song with Van Morrison that kind of sucks. Islands is the
I like a couple of tunes on there.
Cahoots is all right. Smoke Signal's on there, but I think as a recording, what's after Cahoots? Northern Lights, Southern Cross.
Yeah. That
it's got
one I like
Ophelia
too,
on it.
you know
But
what I mean?
the last waltz version of Ophelia is it's
Yeah,
not even. It
much
doesn't even
better.
compare to the studio version. The studio version is garbage in comparison. Islands is that last
That's
album with the
really
original lineup.
that one and Forbidden Fruit are like the only two. To be honest,
Right,
I
but
like
that last album's
Arcadian.
just
I kind
not-
of like Arcadian Driftwood actually.
Arcadian Driftwood's fine, but there's other band songs that are 10 times better.
Yeah, I do like that one though.
The last two,
And I hate like cold weather shit, and it's all.
I
about,
think
like
I think you're looking at the first three albums as really
It is. You're right.
an almost
that's the
unmatched
best shit. You know. I mean, like a
an
lot
almost
of bands,
unmatched
you know.
run of albums in the late 60s and early 70s. I think it actually ends in 1970. I think Stage Fright came out in 1970. Yeah, it did. That was 50 years ago. I think actually now. The 50-year anniversary was just happening. I think the Stones did it well with what came after Her Majesty's Satanic whatever. And that core run of albums, what's that? Beggar's Banquet, Sticky Fingers, Let It Bleed, Exile on Main Street.
Yep.
Is an almost unmatched run, but I think the band did it in a smaller amount of time and did it better. I mean, Music from Big Pink is a classic, but that second album is one of the best albums of all time. Every single song on it is an absolute gem, depending on whether or not you like the slow ones. But that's got Dixie. That's got The Night They Drove Old Dixie
Which
Down
I
on
do, motherfucker. Now. You know.
Well, good. That's got.
Wait, didn't we go over that fucking 17 years ago? How long has it been? 15 years?
10?
10 years
12.
ago?
12? 13?
2007. We met in 2007. So
Vin's like,
whatever
I
that
don't
is.
like it. Makes no difference now. It's like, well, you're an idiot.
And admittedly, I was an idiot because it's one of my favorite songs.
I was so on. I was
It's one
so
of my
on
favorite
Vin's
songs.
case.
Especially on the Last Waltz too. The Last Waltz version of that is like my favorite version.
It makes no difference now as on Northern Lights Southern Cross too, but again, the Last Waltz version just trumps it 100%. Danko singing
that's
is
the best version is on the Last Waltz.
I was so on when me and Vin first met. I was so on his case about not liking the band's slow songs that one day he pulled me aside and asked me why I hated them.
It was like
He was like,
no,
dude, I gotta like.
You're getting,
Why do you
you're
hate me
getting
so much?
stories
I was like,
confused.
No, I don't hate you at all.
You're getting stories confused. You're getting
Am I?
stories confused. Yeah.
Wow.
No, because
I like that story,
that's from the first week at Berkeley, because you were a dick, and I didn't know your sense of humor yet, and I was like, dude, what the fuck, man? Like everyone else likes me but you, motherfucker. I was like, why don't you like me, man? Like I'm like, look, I better confront this shit because this is the beginning of a fucking what might be a 4-year journey, and then it ended up being like 6.5 years, but which I'm so thankful for. But
we only lived together for a little tiny bit.
Yeah,
Probably
which was weird too. That like
been
we only lived together right at the very end.
I don't think we would have been compatible roommates.
I think whatever. I
think it was nice.
know
Like our friendship was great, but I think it was always good that we had an option to go.
Sure. Sure.
No,
you were getting stories crossed though before. That was fucking because you were fucking. I didn't get your sense of humor and shit, and I was like, dude, everyone else fucking seems to like me, but why the fuck? And then you were like, what are you talking about, man? No, like you fucking. And that was it. That was like the end of it,
to be teenagers again.
Maybe it wasn't so. It was definitely that first year.
You get it, right? Yeah.
People. The number of times that people are like, "Why do you hate me?" I'm like, "You must not you just don't understand that I."
Yeah, sorry.
I
guess you haven't met.
I was like, look,
dry,
I could either let
human.
this go, and fucking like never fucking know, or I could just confront it now.
Yeah, you just gotta
nobody
meet.
knows
you
me
just gotta
here,
meet a
you know
me
what I
at
mean?
some point
Like,
in your
what
life,
the
I
fuck?
suppose. Or a Phil. You gotta meet a Phil at some point.
Yeah. This is like worlds colliding for me today. This is like two worlds colliding.
I'm trying to think,
the young me from Alex, and like the me now from Phil.
I'm trying to think. Vin, did you ever ask me that? Did you ever go, "Why does Phil hate me?"
No, because we've always been cool. I don't know.
Well, you've misread that, my friend.
No, I never thought that.
Well, I mean, that was like I said for me. On as far as my end, that was all I was going to bring up. But you know, Alex, if you want to just keep shooting them out, go ahead. Let them know what are we talking about? What songs we got?
We could shoot them out all day. If that's what you wanted to do. Shoot them out all night. I got a fridge full of seltzers. If that's what we're.
I'm actually just drank my last beer, so make it.
Oh, that was dumb, yeah. Having a strawberry coconut seltzer right now.
I was thinking about it right at fucking when I was like, well, I could either go get beer and only have like a half hour to do work, or I can just do work and have a full 45 minutes.
Well, we appreciate the work.
What more is there to say? I mean, it's the best band in the world.
Yeah.
I listen to them all the time.
Hey, can I ask a request of you, Alex?
Absolutely.
Can you show us the tattoo?
Oh, yeah. When I was, God, how old was I? 20? 21?
Yeah, like 20 or 21.
20 or 21.
That was your first one, right?
All them tattooed on my arm.
Nice.
From there you go. The Time magazine cover.
Yeah, the Time magazine cover, yeah.
And I still to this day, get questions on who it is all the time.
But that's almost cooler.
I get the Beatles. I get people ask me, do you know them? No, I don't know them.
I wish.
Who are they? Well, they're the band. Oh,
yeah,
sweet,
which one?
Sweet.
Which one?
What band?
Oh my God.
I don't know. It was a good thing to do. I don't know.
You're helping.
Vin, I think
the band was Alex's calling card.
Right.
Like
Vin said that in your solos one, whereas for a number of years, it was the first thing I would talk about with people. If I had a chance to put some music on, I was putting the band on.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to people about it all the time. I've still got people that bait me into arguments saying, Garth was the least replaceable member of the band. You could replace the four other guys, but you can't replace Garth. And it's designed only to get me to argue with them because that's crazy. Partly true, but crazy. And I've got people it's just a thing that I've made my own over the years, and this is the band that I've chosen to champion to people that frankly don't give them enough credit.
Sure.
It's criminal how little credit this band has gotten for the influence they've had on music. I mean, you take somebody like you can almost nail it down to the specific Eric Clapton incident, who was regarded as the greatest lead guitar player of all time. And what does Eric Clapton do after Big Pink comes out? He stops playing in Cream. He tries to join the band, which is, irrelevant at this point. But his next album the next thing he did was the tour with Delaney and Bonnie as a rhythm guitar player, not a lead guitar player. Mm. And there's that live album that documents it, which is also dope, by the way. And it's like, but then Eric Clapton's career after that sounds nothing like Cream. And it sounds more like the band than it does Cream or anything he did before. I mean, the blues are always there, obviously, but a lot of that stuff is Eric Clapton playing because he was influenced by the band. Plugging his guitar directly in an amp and playing Lay Down Sally with zero effect on it and just playing a Strat through it. Or, obviously I'm blanking on Eric Clapton's discography right now, but there's also things like anytime you're they created a world around them where anytime you're at a record store, if you pick up a record and look at the back label and you see any one of those five guys, you know that album's going to be good.
Yeah.
And there's few people that happens with. Bobby Whitlock's one from Derek and the Dominoes. Carl Ratto played bass on that. Jim Gordon, who played the drums on that kind of thing.
Sure,
Derek and the Dominoes band as they sort of went out in the world as well. But like when you look and you see Levon Helm's name, you know this is good. you see that Garth Hudson's involved, and you know it's going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Robbie Robertson, not necessarily, but everyone else, it's like to create a world around you of, because I'm involved, the music is good, is rare. And I don't think it happens much after or since, where people, I mean, every once in a while, people create their pockets. JJ Cale out in Tulsa, Leon Russell and wherever the hell Leon Russell is from, but like names involved with bands, it doesn't, it's not certainly not a thing really much anymore. Maybe it is a bit, but that was big back then. You pick up a record, you didn't have the internet to find out who was involved. You see these names on it, and you know that this is going to be a good record. And that like started with kind of the band, I think. I mean, I'm sure someone could say otherwise, but that's what I think. The idea of musicians making good music as themselves, I think, started with the band personally.
Awesome.
That's what I have to say about it.
No, it was killing. Like I said, I'm as glad to just sit quiet through this one and just really listen to you guys. I know when I should be in the back seat on this one, so I was glad to take it, and it's awesome. Seriously, I think I can't wait to put this part of the playlist together.
All right, do you guys need recommendations for the playlist?
Well,
yeah, we'll talk about that afterwards.
Yeah, because we already got. Yeah, I mean, you shot out a whole bunch of great stuff, and sometimes I don't even mind just adding a whole album if you're like just like at the second album. That's like well, if you're gonna, I seriously.
I mean, I would say if you want my hard and fast list, it's like this: Here's a Rage from the first album. Here's a Rage, Kingdom Come. You could put the weight on, I guess, but it's not necessary. Long Black Veil. Go to the second album. Oh, sorry, We Can Talk also from the first album because that dope gospel piano intro. Come on. Go to the second album. Basically the entire thing. You can maybe leave off Whispering Pines, but I wouldn't. The Stage Fright is very hit or miss. Stage Fright obviously is a great track from that. The studio version of W.S. Walcott's pretty dope too.
Yeah,
but
it is.
You gotta put Strawberry Wine, first song on the album. That's
Wine.
one of my all-time favorite band songs of all time. But you're really focusing on Rock of Ages as a live album.
And Shape I'm In's on
Shape
that
I'm In's on that too. But you want Shape I'm In, we're going back to the last waltz for that one, personally.
Yeah, sure.
As far as definitive versions of these songs go. Stage Fright's good though. But you gotta put Strawberry Wine for the first one. Most of Rock of Ages goes on there, but especially the opening Don't Do It, Into King Harvest, and the Caledonia Mission is really what, if you want to sort of succinct it, is what you're looking for there.
And
you gotta go to the music history. You gotta go to the music.
And I don't want to hang up my rock and roll shoes into Loving You is Sweeter Than Ever.
I think I Don't Want to Hang Up My Rock and Roll Shoes sold VIN on the band. I remember I put it on an album.
That's what did
we were driving to New York City.
All right, this is
I had it on a mix CD and we were playing it. And VIN was like, "Who the fuck is this? Is this the band?" I was like, "Yeah, it's Levon singing." I don't want to, and Loving You is Sweeter Than Ever. That Four Tops cover is a good one too.
Yeah.
Honestly, the 50th anniversary of the second album just came out recently. It's got the entire Woodstock set on it, which is awesome to listen through start to finish. A highlight on that being the live version of Tears of Rage, personally. Most of Rock of Ages is good there, but you got to get Don't Do It, King Harvest, Caledonia Mission. That run of the first three songs is just a beautiful. Not as sweet, but closest to it. And most of the Last Waltz. The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down was the last time Levon Helm ever sang that song, was at the Last Waltz.
Wow.
Great version of Stage Fright. The definitive version of It Makes No Difference. The definitive version of Shape I'm In.
Yeah.
You can keep going through to Cahoots and put When I've Hit My Masterpiece on there if you want. That's a great one. Levon sings that Dylan kind of classic. Jerry Garcia also used to play it, which is dope. There's the studio version of Ophelia. The musical history has the Twilight song sketch, which is good. But, those albums. And then as far as any album after that, the only thing really worth it is the Atlantic City from 93 on.
Yeah, the Bruce cover.
Yeah, that's as far as later day band from the Reformation in the 80s. I mean, that's the next album that came out after 77 to 93. Jericho's fine, but I mean, the highlight on that 100%. If you haven't heard them sing Atlantic City by Bruce
It's the
Springsteen,
only one from that era.
I think
feel
Bruce
like would be
Springsteen,
the
you know,
one.
it's like when Hendrix covered All Along the Watchtower. I think Atlantic City is played like the band did it now. I think even Springsteen does it that way.
No.
Close to, at least.
Cool.
So that would be my recommendation if you take it or leave it.
No, we'll throw that stuff on, man.
Hell yeah.
Again, whether you know it or not, there's been a bunch of your recommendations have made the list.
Yeah.
I think there was a Sam Cooke live album. I believe it was live at the Apollo.
Live at the Harlem Square Club.
Live
Man,
at the Harlem
I mean,
Square Club.
if you want to talk about,
That's right,
if
right,
you wanted to
that's
have
right.
a
It was
separate
the
one of these
Harlem-
of live
Harlem Club,
albums,
right.
I swear to God, I could come on. You know, we could talk about live albums.
Oh
all
my
day.
God, that's what I'm saying.
Anytime I find a band, I go immediately to a live album in their repertoire.
And
to
let me
see
tell
how
you,
they
the
do.
hours that were spent listening to records like that, like Live at the Harlem Square Club, like Rock of Ages,
waiting for Columbus, Thin Lizzy, Live and
the
Dangerous.
hours
You know,
we
there's
spent
like,
listening to that music, both hanging out in our fucking apartments or fucking driving to whatever fucking crazy gig we had in New England. Man, fucking those were some great times.
yeah, I could talk. I mean, live albums would be entirely different.
Well, we hopefully plan to have many more conversations, and I have no doubt that we'll be having you back on, man. I guess we should probably wrap it up just before we.
Let's wrap it up real
so
quick,
we can.
man.
So, that being said, we have the playlist currently still called the Vin and Phil Show. Hopefully, be switching to Tuned Up and Tuned In with Vin and Phil. But you can check out all the songs or many of the songs that we spoke about today, and that playlist is going to just keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And
Hell yeah.
I'm just going to keep suggesting it harder and harder. There you go. And once again, we'll be putting out in the description. We'll have our Venmo accounts and all that kind of stuff. If you feel like sending some love our way, by all means, no pressure. But if you got it, send it. and then check out our music. Out, Vin's got a new project out. He's got some new stuff that's going to be coming out. I got a new song coming out. Alex, we didn't even talk about. Are you doing anything? No,
Nope.
nothing.
No, I'm not. Check out. I would say, in lieu of checking out my projects that don't exist, check out Ben and Phil's projects that do exist.
Well, that is greatly appreciated. And before we get cut off here, I guess. Thank you again, man. Really, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Hey, not a problem.
man.
I'm happy to come back
Great to
whenever.
see
But
ya.
this is fun.
And that being said, I guess I'm gonna throw up my deuces like I usually do. Peace.
Peace.